Alright, today we're going to go over simple base creation. I've chosen the Citizen Hero National Guard car that Dale Earnhardt Jr. drove in 2008. We're going to apply that base scheme to the DMR Cup 12 body. And I chose this particular scheme not necessarily because of its simplicity, but because it hits on three simple areas in a base scheme design. One, how to make proper straight lines and make them crisp and smooth. And the second one being that with pretty much regardless of the mod, all of them, whether it's SS.net, BR1112, Cup 1112, SRD Nationwide, all the noses are separate. The hood pieces are separate. So you end up having to cross several planes within the painting template to create that straight line and get that indicated curve that you're after. And so we're going to go over how you would do that, as it's a common tool and technique used in the National Guard car currently for 2012 all the way back to 2008, including Trevor Bayne's car, Michael Waltrip's cars, most any car that has a straight solid line down the wheel well, fender well, across the nose. They actually are harder than they look, simply because no matter which model you choose, they all have some slight distortion, warping, or complexities to line them up. So we're going to go over that today. So this is the layout from Hendrick Motorsports from 2008, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open where I have is what I call an Impala base maker file. And what I've done is I've compressed my 2012 template into a simple overlay template where I have all my logos, all my car parts, and I can simply draw the base. This does for me, puts up less resource usage. In turn, I can do things in a high resolution with less resource consumption, which is a good thing. And then later I can take and transfer this off to a fully layered, 150, 250 layer template, depending on how detailed you want the template to be. But it's good to have the logos on there pre-base, because that gives you reference points for your image when you're designing your car. And that's not a bad thing. It's not the best way to do it. It's not the worst way to do it. It's just a personal preference. I've learned how to do this from Jason Roush. Found it to be very useful, and I hope it helps you going forward. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to start. We're going to select our pen tool. And alright, so you're going to notice immediately in Paint Shop Pro, you have some options up here. Your different ways you can use the pen tool: edit mode, cut. Later we'll go into that knife mode. Draw lines, polylines. This is how I prefer to draw. There's your curves, point to point, and freehand, where you can simply move your mouse around. When you're done, you let go and it kind of fixes the curves for you. Items you want to definitely have checked: connect on segments, create on vector, show nodes. Importance of create on vector: allows you to adjust the image at any one point in time. Once it's rasterized, it's permanent. You can't go back and alter it. So it's definitely a good thing to have it in create on vector mode, so that you can then adjust your points as need be throughout the process. The showing of the nodes, you'll see why here shortly. As you put nodes and connection points down for your lines, those are your adjustment areas. If you can't see them, you can't adjust them. So you definitely want to have that shown. Next, you have your line styles, and there's numerous within here. We're just going to go with a straight line today. You select your line width. I think we'll go with 6. Anti-aliasing is important to be turned on. That gives you a smooth, crisp line. And your join types. So you have 3 join types. You have where your 2 points come together, they make an actual point or a tip. That's good for flames, spikes, anything of that nature. You have a rounded join. Those are more for numbers, lettering outlines. And then you have a block where they come together and they just make a square tip, but there's no elongation or spike that's created in the process. We're going to leave it as a spike for now because it doesn't really matter. And your miter limit controls the intensity of those spikes when we do flames, and I will do a flame tutorial at a later date and that will show you. Okay, so first things first, we're going to go ahead and draw our straight line. And on the car layout, you see that the line intersects with the rear of the taillight just above it, and then it kind of curves down, follows the door lines, and then comes through the light and down onto the nose. And you'll notice it does it at different points throughout the car. Not all of them are uniform, so it's pretty much open to interpretation unless you want to get the actual raced version out and look at it. For this, we're just going to go off the diecast presentation or layout and go from there. So we're going to start here, where our first point has been placed, and we need to choose a color. So we'll go with red. Alright, now we're going to bring that forward to where our first kind of bend in the body template is. If you follow the wire mask, you'll see what I'm talking about. And you can introduce a curve between those two at any time by selecting the node, right-clicking, and selecting node type and choosing curve before. And that will put a curve before that last point. Alright, so once we've done that, didn't mean to do that, you will go ahead and put the point where you want the next part of the line to be. Okay. We'll kind of straighten that out a little bit. We're going to move on to the next point. And this one's going to be pretty much straight. Okay. And now you'll see the mask breaks apart, and the hood piece that intersects this triangle in particular lines up here. So we're going to have to carry this design over to there. Before we do that, we're going to go ahead and finish this design on this side of the panel. Just go ahead and bring it down, complete that piece, and then we will go up there and add the continuation. Now let's go ahead and look at what this looks like on the actual model, because while it may not look completely straight, what you end up with on the model can be something totally different. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Save our copy, go ahead and refresh. Alright, so there's that piece right there. And it looks fairly straight to me. Follows the body lines that are built into the model. And you just kind of work within what you got. If you want it down some and straighten it out, you can do that. Okay. Alright. And now we're going to do the hood connection piece so we can see roughly where we need to be. I'm going to assume or guess about here. And we're going to go ahead and bring that down. We're going to bring our black. And by closing it, you get the black fill. You hover till it joins. Okay. So now by looking at that, okay, we can see we probably lined it up pretty close, but if we want to zoom in some, we can look at the specifics. Okay, we probably need to come down 1 to 2 pixels, and that will make our line pretty much straight and even. So let's go ahead and do that. Now to do that, you double click the node that you last touched, and you double click it, and it will select all the nodes in the surrounding chain. And you can move them all at once evenly. Down 1, down 2. So we've moved it down 2 pixel spaces. Save copy as. Choose our SS file, because that's what we were using last. Okay, and there we go. Alright, now we're lined up. Now the next part, even less fun than making a straight line, is you see you have 2 pieces in the template you're going to have to line up with. The top of the nose and the side of the nose. This particular is going to be what looks like something that should be fairly simple is not. And it's not simple on any of the models at all. So we'll go ahead up here, and we're going to go ahead and I'm going to place one line here, and I believe that's where we're going to need to be. But I'm not positive, so we're going to go ahead and leave that. And all I'm doing is placing additional nodes to kind of black out that piece so I can see if I'm close to where I want to be to line it up. Alright, so we see we're probably off by 4 or 5 pixels. What looks like a small space on the top of the nose is actually a large space in comparison to where the body is. So let's go ahead and move that over 1, 2, 3, 4. Get our line straightened back out again. And we'll go ahead and save it again, see if we've got that lined up. Alright, and so now we're lined up. And it's seamless, and you can't even tell that that's part of the front of the nose. It just looks like a continuation. So now we're going to do that again by coming over here, and we have that first piece here, the triangle. Alright, we're going to do it one piece at a time. So we're going to come up here, let's assume maybe that far. And I'm just adding, again, additional lines and points, more so to get that black marking in there, and I can now, as the fill goes in, I can see whether I'm where I need to be to get this curve initiated properly. So. Okay, so you see the first thing that's important to notice is when we may have connected the nodes properly, they're not the same width and it's not angled properly. So we're going to have to go up here and fix that. Move it over 1, 2 positions, and we're going to go ahead and straighten it out as well. Let's see what that gets us. And this is why I said it's important to draw in vector rather than raster, because once it's rasterized, it's a permanent thing. Okay, so now that piece is pretty much straightened out where it needs to be, but this part here needs to come back over. So let's go ahead and flatten that out some. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See what that gives us. Okay, so now we're starting to straighten out some. We're going to go ahead, we want to zoom in some, so I want to see specifically what I've got and if I'm over far enough. And really what it is I need to come over maybe one more. Okay, and you see that kind of enhanced that line, brought it out some. Okay, so what we're also seeing here is it has a slight bend here. We may actually want to bring this back, straighten it out, and make these into separate points. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring that piece back to there. And we're going to give ourselves an additional point. Okay. Ultimately, the goal is to achieve the same close to straight line, but by introducing more nodes and more points, you give yourself more flexibility, more room to maneuver. So now we can bring that up some with those 2 points in between. Let's say we bring it out. What does that 1 pixel do for us? Kind of straightens it up, but let's go ahead and let's shift this guy over 1. Alright, so now we have pretty much our straight line there. But the next part is going to be to bring that line to curve and bring it down. So we're going to move that to the left. We're going to go ahead and turn our contingency decals off for now so we can see what we're working with. Zoom out some. Okay, introduce our curve. Let's go ahead and bring that up. Okay, we're going to go ahead and look at that and see what that gives us on the model. Again, straight can become curves and curves can become straight. It all depends on the model and how the noses are built. You'll find this is a common practice case. And while it may not look straight here, what is important is if it's straight on the top. Okay, so we're still not quite straight where we want to be. So we need to go ahead and straighten that out some. Get ourselves our straight line that we are searching for. So we kind of curve away. So we're going to go ahead and move that out some. And we're going to bring our curve out some. Okay. Save copy as. Let's see what we got. And so you're beginning to see that making a straight line is not as easy as it looks. Definitely not as easy as it seems. But we now have our straight line, and it curves down, follows the line. Now you're following literally the body moldings, and there's not much more to it than that. And the next thing you'll do is you'll mirror it, flip it, adjust it, however you see fit, line it up on the opposite side, and you'll have a complete base, and you're ready to go. So we're going to go ahead, and in order to do this so that you have colors you can work with and change later, we're going to go ahead and expand our vector we've been creating. We're going to duplicate that layer. Once we're satisfied with where it's at, you go into Properties and you turn off the fill layer. Say OK. I'm going to go ahead and convert that to a raster file if you're satisfied with what you have. I am. So now I'm going to go back in here, same file, same vector we just had, and now we're going to turn on the fill. We're going to make the stripe itself also and reduce it by 2 pixels. That gives us an overlap so that no additional base color will bleed through from the primary layer. Okay. And the last thing we need to do is make the back, which is a simple process. Go ahead, place our points. You can be as neat or as messy with this as you so choose. And there you go. There's the back. Go ahead and save that. Alright, so save copy as. Now you're going to see how it flows. Okay, so now we're going to flip our materials. Go ahead and move this layer down so that we don't worry about it. Okay, so we need to make a couple copies here. We're going to copy the red. And that's our, we'll go ahead and rename them if it makes it easier for us. Red pinstripe. And then we're going to call this fill material. Okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and copy that. Control C, Control V, and automatically places it on a new layer. You'll notice now it's not even in the same place. So at the current moment, to get that new piece we just placed, we're going to go ahead and select our material, move it up, and we're going to overlap it. And that gives us, puts it where it should be. Now, the next part you're going to do is image. And we're going to select image and mirror. And what mirror does, it does a horizontal flip of the image. Okay? And we'll go ahead and move that over till we think where we need to be. I think that'll get us close. And we can adjust it later as need be. Okay, so now we're going to do the same, repeat the same process for the fill itself. We're going to go ahead and select that black material that was in there. Control C, Control V. Again, it's going to place it in the middle of the screen. I don't know why it does that. It is irritating. Image. We're going to mirror it again. Now we're going to take and we're going to move that up. The reason why we don't have to go up there and line that up again is because we're trying to put it within the red line. That should be easier. Okay, so that part, the front part has now been mirrored. We'll worry about whether it's lined up here in a second. Let's go down here. Whoops, sorry about that, guys. We now need to make a copy of our fill material on the bottom. Control C, Control V, and we're going to leave that outline, and we're going to move to the red pinstripe and Control C, Control V. Okay, so we now have both of those things together. We're going to deselect. We're going to take and we're going to flip our pinstriping and then our fill. Image, flip. Okay, pinstriping's been flipped. Come down here, image, flip. Okay, now to make it slightly easier, we're going to move them together. Just do some layer reordering here. So now we have those two. Alright. And we're going to take and we're going to move our red stripe first. Make sure you get our black before there. Okay. So let's go ahead and move that down where we think it needs to go. You select the center of the move point, allows you to begin moving. Alright. And I think we're close where we need to be. Only real way to tell is if you go to File, Save Copy As, and you put it on the template. And say, alright, let's look at it. What you think you've got, what you want, where you want it. Go ahead and put it on there and see that, well, we're off. We're off by a good bit. Let's see what's off and where it's at and what needs to be moved and so on and so forth. Okay, so first things first, you'll notice that our nose piece is going to need some adjustment and the body piece. Okay, but you look and see how far your spacing is on each side. Okay, what kind of space you've got between the window here versus what kind of space you've got between the window here. That tells me I need to come down some on the primary striping at the body. We're going to move it down. Move it down two spaces. Okay. Then let's move our. We're going to go ahead and zoom in at this point so that we get a better idea of what we've got going on. We're going to move our red primary over. Okay. Turn off the black fill that goes in there. And right now we're just looking to see if we've got our pinstriping where it belongs. Okay, so now that pretty much tells me I've got that part where I want it. However, you'll notice this piece here needs to come over some. Is the rest of my paint lined up? Is the next question. If you look and you look really carefully, you'll see that it's not. This piece actually needs to come up some. So we're going to do a couple things. We'll remove it up 2 pixels. Alrighty, that's where we want it in relation space. Okay. Take that off. Now we need to focus on this guy here. Go back to our selection. Because we're a little too close. So move that down 1 piece. Now Control X, Control V. Okay, so we move this to where we think we need it to be. Now we're going to go ahead and check our lines again. Okay, so in reality, top line's pretty well lined up where it needs to be on both sides, but we're a little bit closer. So we're going to take and move our red line. You'll see this piece needs to come back this way, and that part needs to go shift a couple of pixels the direction. So we're going to end up cutting our fill striping up here. Okay, so let's go back to our overlay. All right, take this piece and cut it. You can either cut it or you can simply highlight what you want to move, take and move it, and be done with it. Oh, that's right. That's the product selection. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and cut this piece here out. Okay, we can go ahead, check that, see if that's where we want it. Okay, we need to come over 1 or 2 pixels. 1, 2. Just go with 2. Okay, 2 turned out to be too much. Go back 1. It's probably going to be right where we want to be. For the nose to hood begin join. And then from there we're going to adjust it one more time. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and adjust our red body stripe, which is this piece here. Move it over 1. And select the center. Okay, we need to come over one more time, and we'll be there. It should put us where we want to go. Okay, so now we have our straight line on both sides. Now we just put our fill materials in there, and that part is the easy part. And then we'll do a little cleanup, and you have your standard simple line straight down the body base. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and rejoin these two together. We're going to go ahead and rejoin those two. Rejoin these. So we want all of our fill materials together. We want all of our striping together. Okay, so now that all turns off together, we're going to go ahead and back out for a minute. We're going to do a little slight cleanup before we continue on. Get rid of this. And we're going to go ahead and get rid of this. And we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. Okay. Now, that's all excess overlapping lines. And then okay. We'll go ahead and do a double check real quick. Make sure all our changes didn't hurt the paint in any way. It gets rid of our red here on the windowsill area and so on. So now we're going to go ahead and move our fill. Fill material here doesn't really need to be altered. So let's go ahead and zoom in, make sure we're actually correcting that statement. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and move this fill material. Okay, and that fill material, we're going to hold shift. Now allows you to move pieces at multiple pieces that want large amounts of pixels. Okay, so everything's covered. Save copy as. Final time. Let's do a check. See if it's what we want. And if it is, then this base is done. Okay. Everything looks to me like it should. I don't see anything protruding extra, any paint gaps or missing parts. So then if we want to get a better sense of the nose, we go ahead and go up there and turn on the contingency decals. What it's going to look like when it's finished. Okay, and there we have it. Simple base for one of my favorite cars from 2008. And there's an additional stripe you can throw in there that you would do the same way. Or you could simply duplicate your fill items, move them each down, adjust everything by 2 pixels, and that would duplicate the line without having to redraw it for a consecutive time. And that's it.